Right, so in this video, we're going to pimp our AI box.
All right. Nice.
Now, what that means is basically you've got your vanilla AI box in your car. So I'm going to go over a few things that you can add to your AI box to enhance the experience, along with improving it somewhat as well. So without further ado, let's jump in. Now you've got a AI box. I'm going to be using the Rocket here, which is probably the top end AI box. So things are going to run a lot quicker than a more lower spec AI box that you're available at the moment. This one, my top 5, purely from grunt alone, but it's not very good in the user interface area. Now, one of the first things we can now change is the launcher. Now there's many launchers available on the Android store, and it really is personal preference. For me, I just like something more minimalistic, rather than giving it full of these widgets and things like that, which I never really need. Just something more simple, especially when you're driving. You don't want all that interference or clutter on your car display. You just want the necessary information. Now to do that is installing or replacing its current launcher with something else. Now most launchers are very much geared for tablets or mobiles. They're not really geared for car specifically. There are a few that are car specific, and I'll touch on those in a second. But I've played around with a few, and I'll show you a few that I've actually put together so you can do the same. Now to do that, initially you need to go into the Play Store on your AI box, and basically you can either search for launcher, just the word launcher. You could do car launcher if you want to get something more granular. And there's plenty of apps here. You've got Nova Launcher, which is one of the better ones, one I definitely would recommend. The Microsoft launcher is actually quite good. You can actually make that quite minimal. Then you've got Smart Launcher. There's some paid options as well, like Nova Launcher's got a paid version and a couple of others. One of the favorites that I've worked with previously is Car Web Guru. And you've got the launcher here. You can install that. And it's basically like installing an application, but you do need to do something specific to make sure it replaces the existing launcher that you've got. Now we can go ahead and open this, and it's going to serve up a bunch of permissions that you'll need to confirm. You've got a lot of them already pre-ticked here. So we're going to start Car Web Guru. And there you have it. It's basically replaced that screen. Yes, you're not going to see any apps unless you literally swipe up. You can change all the customizations of it. You can change widgets and things. You can tap this one here and actually view all your apps and drag them into various areas of the screen. But you can see if I go home, it goes back to the original launcher. We're just using the launcher as an app right now. So we just dive back in there again. You could just choose all these different types of displays of that content. So you can have your car moving. You've got real-time speedo, which is going to come from the data or GPS connection. Or you can also connect it to an ODB2 socket, and then you can actually feed that data into your display as well, which is really nice and handy. So there's lots of widgets and different types of displays that you can actually use directly out of the box here without playing around with it yourself. But if you do want that minimalistic look and you don't want to have all those bells and whistles, you can design your very own as well. So you can set a theme here. You've got all these crazy ones here. You've got alien, motorbikes and so on. Some of these are premium, but you've got plenty of different car related UI and it's quite generic right now, but you can actually go in and actually customize those images being used as well. You can do a free demo so you can actually see how it looks before you go ahead and actually purchase it. And you can swipe from the right, and then you've got access to different screens which are running those different widgets. Pulling down doesn't really do anything. Pulling from the left is just going to go between the screens. And you kind of need a button to invoke the apps itself. Otherwise, you've got to tap on that and then choose the apps from this list, which is not as nice. It's a little bit blurry. It could be a little bit better as well. So that's Car Web Guru. You've got Smart Launcher. We'll launch that as well. We're just going to go in there, vanilla. And here is a unique feature to some launchers. They actually do ask you, do you want to replace your existing launcher? And Quick Step is the one that comes with the AI box itself. So we're going to change it to Smart Launcher, set that as default. And now we're into Smart Launcher's UI, which is nice and minimal. You can tap and hold, and you can move these about, and you can change the fonts. You can remove some of these icons. That looks like, I'm not quite sure what that is, but you can tap and hold and remove those. You can also tap on the screen. You can add an icon. and then say I just want to show like YouTube and Spotify, for example. So we can tap those, confirm it, and they come in. And say we don't use telephone, you can remove that. You can then nicely set these icons in line. So you want the browser as well. You don't use images, you don't use messaging, and you don't use the camera. But we can bring in something a little bit more helpful, like say maps or Waze, for example, and Xlink, because that's their CarPlay functionality. So you might not even want the Play Store really front and center. You've got a search bar here, not really going to use that. So I turn that off, and there you got, with the right background, we can replace that as well. You've got a nice minimalist display with all your favorite icons. You can actually put some hotspots to, say, for instance, you can add some functionality. So if we go up into shortcut, you can add, say, Wi-Fi, and that's a shortcut to go up into Wi-Fi. And then we can add another one as a shortcut to, say, settings. So in settings is going to be an actual app. We've got AI Box settings and the actual main OS settings, and we can add that as well. And that's pretty much it. If you're happy with the icons that are delivered with the actual OS launcher itself, you can just leave it like that. Just get on with your life. But if you want to get access to all the other apps, they're all here. You just swipe up. Here it's asking, do you want to organize them into categories? We could do. Let's try that. And then it changes them to like games and things like that. And if we don't like that, we can just undo all this, and you just got a full list of apps as well instead. So you can pull down back to that nice main menu. Right, so you can also add widgets to this screen. You can have battery, you don't really need that. There are some paid versions, so you will have to upgrade to the premium version. You can have widget stacks and icon groups, at least icon groups for free. Calendar events that you can pull in your Google Calendar. Different ways of showing the time. And then you've got widgets based on the applications that you've got installed and the types of widget styles that are available. So for example, we've got Spotify, we've got 2 here. We can choose the right one here. And that's now neatly placed in a sort of contained widget. So with this widget, you can basically then tap and hold. You can expand it to a full width. You can make it a bit deeper. And although it's not really styled that well, it really is app specific, and it really is mostly aimed towards phones. So you can see that the album art isn't really that high resolution. We can change between the different artwork, but it's still quite low resolution. So it's not really aimed or tailored for that. But unfortunately, that's how it is. But things like weather, you can actually install different weather apps like BBC, weather.org and stuff like that. You can actually then get their own different widgets, and they're going to be free rather than using the paid version. You can go a little bit further where you can customize the app icons. To do that, you need to go to the Play Store and then search for, I would just do something like line icon pack free. This, which is a line icon pack, that's for free. And that does give you a little bit better and free way of customizing these icons. So that's all now installed. They just install like an app. And then we're going to go back, and we will go back to the launcher, tap an icon, and then go to edit the icon. And then because you've got those apps installed, it's going to give you some alternatives other than the different shapes. And we can go into lines free. You can actually then choose a completely different icon. So we can go into this one for now. Just choose the original. That then replaces it. And we'll do basically the same for all the other apps. So we go into here, we go to edit icon. So Arctic icon seems to do a good enough job actually. So for example, Xlink, or any application that's a little bit left field and it's not that common to be inclusive on the options, you can go into the Arctic icons again, and that's going to basically pull in all the icons that they've actually created for many apps that they probably hasn't found, or more generic icons that will work with your scenario. So from here we can go into like CarPlay in case we're using it for CarPlay, and if they don't actually have that option, car might be just enough. And we can then give it a car icon, for example, and that's our car icon. And then finally, let's just do these top ones. And there you have it. Nice and minimalistic. You've got the Spotify widget up there, even though it's not kind of like monotone. That would have been nicer. Now we've got the weather widget. We can configure that if you're not got Fahrenheit as your favorite. So we can change the weather here. Locations automatic. We can then change it to Celsius. You can also choose what app it's pulling that information in from if you find something a little bit more reliable. Here you can change the clock, the formatting of the clock, and we can connect our calendar if you want to show dates, but we're not going to do that either. You can change the font if you want a nice fancier font, if you want something a little bit more vintage looking. And then if we go back, we've got this kind of vintage look. We can bring that up and make that slightly bigger. The font slightly gets bigger, but that's pretty much it. So you can customize what you like. You can go for a more minimalistic font if you wanted to. This Abel one should work. And there we have it. That's a really nice, way better than their stock interface. And then you've got quick access to Wi-Fi to connect your hotspot or connect to the car's hotspot if you're not using it for CarPlay. You've got quick access to the settings to switch those abilities on and off as well. And then you've got all these, which is basically going to launch up your favorite apps and so on. Now, it's not going to replace the floating button of doom, unfortunately. You will not be able to get around that, I don't think. But it's a really nice way to pimp your launcher on your AI box. Now that we've got this all nice and customized, let's give it a little bit more intelligence. Now, they are AI boxes, but that means Android interface, not artificial intelligence. But we can give your AI box some artificial intelligence. Now, by doing that, this obviously needs to be online, so make sure that before going down this road, you're always going to have an internet connection to make full use of this. But to get started, we need to go into the Google Play Store again. We're going to go up to search and we're going to type in Gemini. We've got Google Gemini here, so you're going to tap that and install it. And then we're going to open it and get all this all connected. So continue all these prompts, and now we're fully loaded and locked for some AI. Now, what we can do now, we can come out to the home screen and we're going to reduce this window slightly. You can change that grid as well. So if you want it more granular, more icons, for example, you can totally do that with this launcher as well. But we're going to tap on this side here. We're going to add an icon and we're going to search for Gemini, and we're going to add that. That's now added to the bottom there. We're going to drag it over. So you've got a shortcut there to get to the assistant.
Hello, how can I help you today?
So you can just talk to it like any other assistant. Hi, I am traveling to Brighton today. Can you tell me some of the best places to visit?
Brighton is a fantastic place to visit. Here's a breakdown of some of the best spots, catering to different interests.
So that's basically going to get you connected to an AI assistant. And the best thing is you can now connect this to your car wheel voice button. Now to do that, you've got to come all the way out to the home screen again. Tap on the settings to go into your AI Box's main settings. And then basically we're looking for something like more settings or apps in general. We want to go into the apps. Then we want to go into default apps. Then you've got digital assistant. It currently is set to none. That could be, if you're using it already, that could just be set to the Google Assistant. But we want to change that because the default is the digital assistant. We want to change this. So with Gemini installed, you can go to the Google Assistant and actually tell it to use Google Gemini instead. You can see here which assistant you actually want to choose. So with setting the home app as Google Gemini, you've got the digital assistant set to Google. You can come back to the main menu system. We can pretty much get rid of this now. And you can then invoke the Google Assistant, which is going to launch up Gemini. So this will be on your wheel control, or you can hold down the home button. I'm going to Brighton today. Can you tell me where the best places are to visit?
Brighton is a fantastic arcades and food stalls.
So that comes over the display. You don't have to have anything else installed. Hit your wheel button, and then you've got Google Gemini coming out of your AI box, which is going to be way better than the Google Assistant. You can also talk to it and have a proper conversation in the car and say, launch Spotify app. You can do close the Spotify app.
Sorry, I can't find Spotify.
Exit the Spotify application.
Sorry, I can't find Spotify.
So you can launch things, but it looks like you can't actually close them. So you will have to do that manually, unless I'm just pulling up the wrong command.
Hi, I'm Gemini. We're about to go live.
So you've got like a live mode with Gemini as well. And this is where you can
Alright,
actually start
let's
having a
start chatting whenever
conversation.
you're ready.
I run a channel called CarPlayLife. Can you describe what that channel is about, please?
CarPlayLife is a YouTube channel and website all about the latest car tech. They review new gadgets and features, compare different systems. Think of it as a one-stop shop for anyone curious about the latest.
So you can have a conversation on that whole screen. Obviously, Android Auto is going to integrate Gemini at some point this year. If you want that AI assistant on your AI box, this is a nice way to do that. Right, so that's the launcher covered. We've got the visuals sorted out. We've given it actual AI in the box. What else can we do to pimp our AI box? Now, if you didn't know already, we've got some TF card storage in here. Most of them do come with TF cards, either through a little flap here on the top here, or it's like a exposed card slot. You basically take a TF card and then inserting that into the AI box is basically going to expand its current storage. Now, if you've got a 64 gig and you're running out of space, you can just get a nice high-end TF card of around 64 or 128 gig will be plenty, and you can expand your storage that way. So don't feel that you're limited on the size of storage that you've got in your AI box. You can totally expand it either through a TF card, or if your adapter supports it, you can use a USB drive instead and stick that into the side to expand your storage. Another thing you could try to enhance your AI box is go into the settings section for the AI box, which is the official Android section. If you go to the About section of your AI box and scroll down to a section that says build number, if you tap that quite a few times, now I'm already a developer, but you'll start to see it says like you're 4 times away from going into developer mode. Keep tapping and then you'll go into developer mode. Now, once you're in developer mode, not every AI box unfortunately supports this. So just find that build number, tap it quite a few times, about 6 times, and then you'll go into developer mode. Now, developer mode either can be searched in the bar here, or it's basically sitting in the systems section under developer options. Tap this, and there's plenty of things you can do in here. But the one things of note that's worth looking into is you can show refresh rate. That's going to basically show what the FPS is of your AI box if it's supported. So if you are looking at HD video, that's 60 FPS, chances are that the lower end AI boxes won't go any higher than 30 FPS. So that 60 FPS is completely redundant. You can see here that the AI box from the Rocket runs at 60 FPS, so you will get much smoother frame rate in video. But other than that, it's not really needed to have it on all the time. What you will want to have on is the ability to increase the DPI of the AI box. Now, what that does is basically it allows the display to almost like necessarily shrink itself or expand itself depending on what you want. Most likely it's going to be quite a low DPI setting, which means that everything's going to be quite chunky. And the thing is that YouTube and certain applications will take that DP setting and arrange its layout specifically for that type of resolution. Now, the Rocket is probably not the best place to show this, because if I come out of here quickly and I launch up YouTube just to show you, you can see you've got 3 images of videos on that horizontal part of the screen. Now, if you load up your AI box and you don't have a Rocket, it's very likely you're going to see big tiles stacked on top of each other. And I can simulate that by reducing the DPI setting. So if I jump back to the settings screen, you can see here, when you scroll down to the bottom, I'd say you can see my little marker there. It's about more than 3/4 of the way down on the view. You've got this section called smallest width. You can see it's set to 685 dp. Now, if I change that to something like, say, 480, and I approve that, see how much that's scaled up now. We're making stuff much more chunky. Now, if I go back into the home screen and I launch YouTube again, you can see here already how much chunky that is. And now you can see the layout has completely gone to a more kind of mobile orientated user interface. So if you find that awkward to use, and it is awkward, you basically would just go back into the settings section, go back into smallest width and set that. It will depend on your car resolution, but set that to something quite high. No more than 1,000, it's going to get ridiculously small. Around 600 to 800, play around in that range. Everything's all scaled down now. You see more on screen. If I go into the home screen again and then relaunch YouTube, we're now seeing even more, because previously you saw that was on 600 and something. Increasing that gives you a lot more, and it starts to manipulate and change the UI and how it's actually orientated. So using that trick expands your resolution slightly, technically, on how the display is displaying that content. And obviously in regards to YouTube, you're seeing more content in your field of view. And the same thing goes into when you actually go into a video. If you're on a low resolution display, you unlikely maybe see this, and you'll get more content to be able to scroll through as well. And the same thing goes for many other apps as well. Spotify, it'll be less chunky. You'll see more content available on the screen as well. And the same goes for like browsing, and Netflix as well. We utilize that too, with more tiles you can actually scroll through. So there's lots to like there by just adjusting that DPI. The one thing I would just be cautious of is the higher the DPI, the smaller the icons get. You can see here, these get very small, and when you're driving, they get tiny, and it's really hard to touch them sometimes, especially when you're moving as well. So just set that DPI so you've got enough real estate in the content that you're viewing, like here, and it's big enough for the icons to be tappable whilst you're in the car. Okay, so that's basically the highlights on how to pimp your AI box. I do hope this has been helpful for you. If it has, give us a big thumbs up, and do consider sharing this with anyone else that might want to know about this type of content. If I find any more, or if you've got your own tips, tell me in the comments, and then maybe I'll do a part 2 of this, and I can bring you some more things to enhance your AI box with. If you like my content and you'd like to support the channel, you can send us a super thanks down in YouTube, or you can check out my link in the description to buy me a coffee, and you can support me there too. So if I've helped you out in any way, do consider supporting us. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.